Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Maaike. Today we are going to be talking about the new Essence and Catrice limited edition collection in collaboration with Disney. So in case you didn't know, Zoeva, which is the mother brand behind Catrice and Essence, has been doing this collaboration with Disney for a while now, and they are now doing a sister love collection between the two brands, with Essence putting out the princess version and Catrice putting out the villains version. This collection also features highlighters, brushes, and lipsticks and face masks, I believe. But you know me, I just love eyeshadow palettes, so I bought all 6 palettes that the collection has to offer. Now, both these brands have done these joint collaborations before. I think they did the Royal Party Sister Love collection last year. That I tried, so I can link that in the eye above for you. They also did one over the summer, but that one didn't really appeal to me, so I didn't get it. I think it was called the Tanzation collection, I think. I'm not sure. But they had this like summer collection over the summertime. And then each of the brands have also individually done Disney collections. So Essence already came out with princess palettes, I think about a year ago. I think it was fall last year. They had a Belle, Tiana, what else? Oh, Jasmine. What was the 4th one? And Ariel. They did those palettes. And I already tried 3 of those in a video I did last year as well. So I'll link that in the eye above too. And then Catrice, earlier in the year, I think it was springtime, they did a Minnie and Daisy Duck collection. So Minnie Mouse, Daisy Duck. And I also tried those products in a video for you. So please check the eye above for all of that goodness. But yeah, now today we are talking about these palettes. I bought these from a German website called cosmeticforless.de because that seems to be the only place where you can get these from if you don't live in Germany. That's all I know for now. I did see Trend Mood post about this too, and usually Trend Mood posts about things that are available in the US. So if these are coming to Ulta, I'm not sure. Please contact Catrice or Essence on Instagram because they will be able to tell you whether it's available in your country or not. I just posted a comment on their Instagram and they replied saying, no, it's not coming to the Netherlands. Please get it online. And that's what I did. So yeah, I got all 6 of these palettes and I wanted to chat to you about these. I also did looks with all 6 of these palettes, and what is on my face today, this eye look was curated using all 6 of these palettes. So let's start reviewing these puppies right now. So the way I would like to set up today's video is to talk about each palette individually first. And as I'm talking about each individual palette, you'll be seeing 2 things. You will be seeing a close-up of swatches of the palette, because I already took pictures of all of these. And what I also did was I created one look with each palette. I just sat down the other day and sort of did a look on one eye just to try out the palette and see how that went. So I will be inserting that footage. Hopefully I can do a split screen, fingers crossed, so that you can sort of see how the look comes together as I'm talking about these palettes. So the palette I would like to start you off with, because it's perhaps the most basic, is a Snow White palette. And the Snow White palette is one where I feel that it has a color story that you just see a million times over. Save for the pop of green and the pop of blue, it's just a bunch of boring brown tone neutrals. With a gold, this taupey shade is also quite nice. And another good thing to know about this palette is that it only has 2 mattes. You get a transition that's matte, and you get this blend shade that is matte. Lovely for sure, but I also feel, for instance, that these 2 browns, once you put them on the eye, I felt they looked quite similar. So is every single shade in this one distinct from the one to the next? Perhaps not as much as I'd like. Like this, also these 3 shades kind of look very similar. Maybe even this one is included there. You do get 2 of these like flaky shades that Essence has been doing. So that's the green over here and the brown here. Have these little specks. And one thing that I really appreciate with these palettes is that some of the pans have like a stamp in it that has to do with the palette. So the Snow White palette has these little apples. I'm not sure if you can see it. So is this a must-have? It's not. The quality of it is nice. I didn't have any issues with quality in any of these palettes actually, but this palette is just a little basic and boring. And if you really have to go through so much effort to try and get your hands on some of this stuff, then I don't think that in the case of this color story, it's necessarily worth it to get. I do have to say though that I really appreciate this Essence packaging. It feels very sturdy even though it's cardboard, so it's still lightweight, and it does have a magnetized closure, so that's really nice about that one. Next up, I would like to talk about the Ariel palette, and this is one that very much surprised me when I first swatched it. Like with the Snow White palette, it comes into same packaging. It feels just as sturdy, just as nice. And what I found really nice about this one is that it is warm toned, but it is a little bit more like leaning a little lighter perhaps. And so I feel it works quite well on my fair skin. It's not very deep. So you do have to mention, like, these are the deepest 2 shades you get in here. So if you have a very deep complexion, this may not work for you the best. But in terms of interesting color stories, I think that this one is the most interesting one out of the entire bunch. This one is embossed with little seashells in some of the pants, which is lovely. And where the Snow White palette had 2 of these flaky shades, you only get 1 in this one. And this one's really interesting because it's like a rose gold if you swirl it all together. But I managed to be able to just pick up some of the lightest shade in that and put it in my inner corner. It was very pretty. But where this palette is really at is in these 3 larger shimmers that are in here because they are duochromes. And especially this peachy shade is really, really pretty. So, it's just really, really pretty the way they work. I do have to say though that the shimmers in this one were quite soft. I do find that in terms of quality between the palettes, there is a slight difference. Like the mattes in this were super soft, whereas I found that some of the mattes were a little tougher to work with. Some of the, I think it's actually coming up in the next palette, some of the shimmers, some of them are very sort of almost waxy feeling, and you really sort of need to dig your brush in to get any payoff. Whereas a shimmer like this is very, very light and fluffy. So I feel that in terms of formula, it's not the most consistent, but every single shade still works really well. Even the ones that didn't swatch well. If I used it on my eye, I felt that they worked better with a brush, but we'll get to that when we get there. This Ariel palette has 3 mattes, this beigey shade, this larger transition. No, it's got 5 mattes. No, it's got 4 mattes, this corally shade, and then this brown shade. I was thinking that maybe this coral shade was a bit of a matte too, but it's more like a satin. Really pretty on the under eye. And that's another thing I appreciate about the Ariel palette is that apart from like 2 or 3 duochromes that you get in here, you also get some interesting pops of color. So for me, while yes, the basis of it, like if you just look at this, it looks so bland and boring, but I feel that this palette really gives you something more unique, especially with those pops of color and then those really lovely, almost like duochromy shades. It's really, really stunning. And then the last princess palette that I have for you is the Aurora palette. So this is from Sleeping Beauty, and I think of the 3 princess palettes, I think this color story may be most up my makeup tastes, like what I like in a palette, because it's mauve-y and rosy and pink. So these are just, this is a little bit more cool toned leading. And actually what I thought when I had looked at some of the pictures online, I thought the entire collection was a bit more cool tone leaning, but from the princess palettes, I think the Snow White is more neutral, the Ariel is warm toned, and then this is more cool tone leaning. So I do appreciate the variety. It's just that the pictures online were perhaps a little misleading when it came to how all of these palettes would look. Let me see, in here you get 5 mattes, so you also get a few more mattes. So you get this darker one, this transition, I need to make sure I point at these the right way. This transition, this darker matte, and that creamy shade again. And here we have a rose embossing. And this comes with some really, really stunning taupes, especially this shade. This is the shade I have all over my lid today, dabbed with something else on top. And I definitely sort of wanted to go with some of the purples in this when I first did a look with this. It's really, really stunning. I think that this is one that I can definitely reach for more once I have done this video. I don't think I'll necessarily reach for the Snow White palette again. The Ariel palette I might if I'm in the right mood, but this is just completely up my street. In this, I found that the mattes were very soft and powdery, and this had that more like tougher texture in this shimmer. It still picks up very nicely with a brush, don't get me wrong. It's just that this, where in the Ariel palette I felt the shimmers were a bit more loosely pressed, this is just a little more firmly pressed, and therefore it can take a bit more effort to pick up. But as you can see, I had no issue getting this on my eye at all. So that's the Aurora palette. And then we have the Catrice Villains collection, and I think, yeah, I'll just start with the Maleficent one because that's on top. And this was one I was very excited for because it has those greens, but I thought that this was going to be more of like a cool tone color story, and it kind of is, but I feel that the neutrals in this one isn't necessarily in line with some of the greens that you get in here. The greens are very ashy and very cool toned, and then the neutrals are very warm toned, which is a bit of a shame. And something you need to know is that all three of the Catrice palettes feature 2 pressed glitters in the middle. Sometimes it's these two, but in this one it's these two. Those are pressed glitters. And from a texture point of view, I think that the Catrice palettes have a little bit more to offer. So let me see if I can get the mirror out of the way. Yes, because apart from glitters, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mattes in this one, and you get 2 marbled shades, which again, I think they've been trying to copy from Huda Beauty, because that's what Essence and Catrice seem to do. So you get 2 marbled shade, you get 2 duochromes, and you get a cream to powder formula that I feel is very similar to ColourPop Super Shock shadows. So in this palette, it is fiery, and that is a lovely, lovely shade. I dabbed this all over my lid in the look that I did using this palette, and I was very surprised that how much I like this sage green shade in the bottom. It showed up really well against my fair skin, so I was super happy about that. And this Raven shade I used on the lower lash line today, it's a bit like Max Blue Brown kind of pigment. So it had a little bit more earthy perhaps. And I haven't used any of the glitters that are in here because I'm not a huge fan of pressed glitter. And since I knew I was taking off all of these looks, I didn't really go for that. So I do apologize if you wanted to see those pressed glitters. Is there anything else here that's worth to note? Oh yeah, you do get 3 like standard shimmers in here too. So lots of different textures, whereas in the Essence it's sort of like mattes or shimmers, and there isn't a lot of dimension in terms of texture. And with the Catrice palette you get really good textures. The black in this, called Witch, is really, really stunning as liner. So I feel that this is the more unique color story out of the 3 villains ones for sure. I just wish that instead of this being very warm toned, like these 2 shades and these 4 shades, I wish those would have been cool toned so that the palette as a whole worked better for me. And then we have the Ursula palette, and this kind of surprised me in the end because I do really like this color story. And this looks really, really pretty because it has those purples, and I thought when I swatched this, oh no, because this purple does not swatch. In a finger swatch, I could not get it to show up, and also there's shimmer that's right next to it. I had so much trouble picking it up, but I found that this works pretty well with a brush. I decided to put it in my crease for the look that I was doing, and it worked really well. So I thought that this palette was a little bit of a surprise for that. I do think that Wave, I'm still a bit undecided whether it actually does something, or maybe I should just use a denser brush in order to pick it up. You also get this really nice like deeper plum shade. I like how this doesn't have like a black or a brown as the darkest shade. It's more like a brown tone purple, and I use it in the outer V today. It's really stunning. This doesn't have one of those like super shock kind of shades, but you do get 2 pressed glitters. This taupe shade is stunning. I used it a little bit on the center of the lid today. And then you just get a couple of really nice, more neutral leaning mattes, I would say. They are not as warm toned as the ones in the Maleficent, save for this one. So I feel that this is a little bit more neutral toned. And then this Villain shade is really stunning, bronze. And then you only get one marbled shade in this. How many mattes do we get in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mattes in a 16 pan palette. So that's perhaps a little bit better. If you really, really like mattes, then this may be your best option. And last but not least, the Evil Queen palette. And the Evil Queen palette is the most warm-toned one out of the 3 palettes by Catrice. In here, again, 2 pressed glitters. This orange toned one is, it's like, it feels like craft glitter to me. So that one I would never ever put on my eye, even though it looks very pretty and sparkly in the pan. The red, I'm a lot more taken by. That red I think I might still use at some point, because the pressed glitters, when I swatch them, even though I don't like pressed glitter, you know that about me, but there's only one pressed glitter formula that I've tried that I do like, and that's the Tarte pressed glitters in the High Tides and Good Vibes eyeshadow palette. Those are good pressed glitters. These, save for that orange one, all the other 5 glitters that you get in here very much reminded me of what I get out of those Tarte pressed glitters. So as far as pressed glitters go, I think they can be good pressed glitters. The problem is that these were very difficult to take off. So I swatched everything, and with a makeup wipe, which usually has no issues taking any product off my arm, I was a glittery mess until I took a shower a few hours later. Like, it's just one of those things where you have to be very careful, because if you put this on your eye and you try taking it off with like a cleansing balm, you're just going to look like a disco ball. Like, the only way to fully remove these glitters is to scrub yourself clean in a shower, because else it's just going to get in your hair. They're just going to transfer everywhere, and the chances of getting these then in your eye, not something we're a fan of. Yeah, you don't want glitter in your eye. Again, in terms of mattes, this is a good one, because you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mattes in this one as well. You get one of the marbled shade, but this is a bit of a weird one, because it's like a coppery red with green. So when you blend it together, I felt the shade was a little weird looking. And other than that, this does have a really stunning Super Shock kind of shadow in the shade Mirror. This is the reason why I'm going to keep this palette around, because this reminds me of Ritz by ColourPop, which is my favorite Super Shock by ColourPop. This just all over the lid with like one of those neutrals on the eye. I think it can make for a very, very pretty look. But we all know how I feel about warm tones. However, if you do like warm tones a lot more than I do, then I think you might like this. I would just ignore the fact that it's got pressed glitters, because then you still have a very nice neutral, warm tone neutral palette for sure. So let's rank these for a minute. And I think that my assessment of them individually has already perhaps, you know, given you a clue of how I feel about these. But my bottom pick would be the Snow White palette, and not because of its quality, but because it's just boring. I wish this would have been a little bit more exciting. I mean, if you just look at Snow White herself, she has some red in her coloring too. So it would have been nice if, for instance, there were some more navies in here, maybe some more foresty greens, because of course she lives in a cabin in a forest for most of her story. I just feel there's a lot more that could have been done color story wise with this palette. And I kind of feel that way about all of these actually. I like the color stories of the other 5 a lot better than I like this one, but I do feel that there are a lot of neutrals in here. So I wished, again, with, for instance, the Maleficent palette, it would have been nice if that would have been more green toned than it actually is. And I feel that this one, again, it just verges on the very, very safe side for sure. Does this appeal to a lot of people if you're looking for a good neutral palette? For sure, but like I already mentioned, not worth going out of your way trying to get this. Next up would be the Evil Queen palette, and the reason why I rank this at the bottom as well is because it has those pressed glitters, and because I'm just not a huge fan of warm tones. It's just not my cup of tea, and if you take out the pressed glitters, then in terms of what you get is just a lot of midtones. You do get one really nice like deepening shade, so I feel you can still make this work. It's just, if I put everything together with the pressed glitters, the warm tones, it wouldn't be my top pick. Next up would be the Ariel palette because it's warm tones mainly, but I do feel that I rate this higher than the Evil Queen palette because it is more fair girl friendly for sure, because it's not too deep toned and because it does have some fun pops of color, plus it doesn't have any pressed glitters, which is really great, and it just has those gorgeous duochromes, which I'm down with. So this is definitely one that therefore ranks higher than the Evil Queen palette for me. But of course, you know what I'm like. I like neutral, cool tone leaning palettes. So next up in my top 3, number 3 would be the Ursula palette. And the reason why I rank this on number 3 is because I do really like a good purple, and I feel I was able to create a decent purple look with this. It's just that, as with the Maleficent palette, I wished that this was perhaps more cool toned so that you really have something to go with the purples a lot more. I mean, something like this and something like this. I wish those shades were just different shades, and maybe this one too. It's pretty, it works, and especially warm tones and purples can still work really nicely together. Like, it's a nice juxtaposition to have it. So as a palette overall, I like this, but I think I would very much split this into 2 parts, a neutral part and a purple part. That's probably how I would continue using it. Then we have number 2, the Maleficent palette. So for me, this was the one that stood out to me in the pictures online, and it's still one of the standouts from this collection for me. But as I already mentioned, I don't understand why this has to be so warm toned. Here as well. Plus, I feel there are like these 2 shades. Are they really that distinct? I'm not entirely sure. I do really like that ColourPop Super Shock kind of shade in here. That's called Fiery. And I do really appreciate these 2 greens here, and also this shade here pulls a little bit more green toned. I haven't used the blue yet, and I just really like the fact that it has duochromes as well. So I feel that in terms of what it has to offer, I think I can get the most out of this. And in terms of color story and texture, this is perhaps the most unique one in the bunch, but I do feel that it could have been a better palette overall. Besides, I'm not really sure why they went with so much green in a Maleficent palette. Like, Maleficent is also purple. Not entirely sure where they got this color story from. So I'm not like that's sort of like my gripe here. Like, do the color stories really go with the characters? Perhaps the Ursula one is perhaps the best in terms of like matching the color story to the character, and perhaps also the Sleeping Beauty one. So Aurora, I guess that kind of goes with her character as well. And this would be my top pick out of the entire collection, mainly because this is my color story. Is this unique? No, but the Maleficent palette has 2 pressed glitters, which is why it just cannot go on top, because I'm just that against pressed glitters, even though they are nice pressed glitters. That's why this one I feel is better. You just get taupes in here, that bright pop of pink I really appreciate. These like plummy shades are really nice. It's got a bit of like a burgundy vibe, and then those rosy mauves. This is just a palette after my heart. It's just that I have a ton of these palettes already. So is this again a must-have? No, for sure it's not. And that's also what I sort of wanted to end this video with, is to, well, discuss the fact, is it worth going out of your way, like I did, to buy yourself these palettes? Now, of course, if you are a bit of a makeup nerd like me, and you're buying these for collector's purposes, because that's why I got them, because I have all the other Disney palettes that Essence and Catrice did, save for the Tiana one. I have all of them, so of course I couldn't miss out on these. Quality-wise, there's nothing wrong with these, but they could have been more unique. They're just, I wish we got a bit more, you know, in terms of uniqueness in the color stories. But these are good drugstore palettes for sure. I'm not sure yet whether I discussed price points, but the Catrice ones with 16 pans you pay $12.95 for, and the Disney Princess ones, which are 14 pans, you pay $9.95 for. So, I mean, they're very reasonably priced, especially for the amount of shades you get. for the quality you get. These blend well. You do have to watch out a little bit with Essence and Catrice shadows muddying up together. You need to be able to really build and then blend them carefully. And I do feel that the color stories in these just are a little lackluster. That's my main gripe. Hopefully you found this video useful and I was able to give you some insight in what these palettes have to offer. Do I recommend you buying all 6 of them like I did? Not at all, but if you're a bit of a Disney freak like I am, and you really like Essence and Catrice, then I'm pretty sure you're going to love these too. So that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make regular content about Essence and Catrice. So if you'd like to see more limited edition collections or also some of the regular products that they do in their updates every 6 months, then I do make content about that all of the time. So much more is coming your way. And of course, I also talk about other stuff on here. So I hope you would like to stay tuned, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye-bye.